Perhaps few of you listening to this were very tidy as children, and when you played with your toys, you then made sure you put them back to those little boxes and you had everything in order. But if you were anything like me, you've probably had at least one set of puzzles that had some pieces waiting to be found. And even if you did the whole jigsaw puzzle, you still felt that frustration that there are some things that are missing. And maybe you don't even remember what they were. And that's both good and bad. That's the paradox. The way that this world works is that not only do we feel the need to find answers to all questions, but we also need to find rules for every situation, every behavior, every problem. And often it seems that it's just a matter of time before we find that missing piece, we put it back to where it belongs and everything will be clear. We will have everything tagged, labeled, controlled, and we will feel safe. And so, in order to feel safer at least, we do it all the time, both with ourselves and with other people, especially when we are trying to find the answer to the question of our identity. So we label things and people: Polish, English, Catholic, Protestant, right wing, left wing. Right wing, left wing. And though these labels help us organize reality, they do not represent the reality as it is, because reality is far too complex and it's never that well organized. But still, we try. The problem with the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle is not that it's missing. The problem is that far too often we satisfy ourselves with easy answers. And worse yet, we accept some totally alien pieces that never belonged to the puzzle in the first place, in place of that originally missing piece. The great danger of life is that our need for belonging, our need to feel whole, to feel accepted, can be so strong that it can lead us to kill our soul, to sacrifice our soul, to sacrifice that wilderness in us in order to fit in. Or we may be so afraid to make a mistake that we will reduce our life to doing good things, but we will never do anything great. The problem with our life puzzle is not that it's something missing, because if we are honest with ourselves, there's always something missing, and there always will be. The problem is, what do we do with that feeling? Do we readily accept pieces of advice from other people? Or do we just enter that blank space, that space left out by that missing piece, enter into that void and see what happens? Enter the mystery. This blank, untouched, uninhabited place is the wilderness we were talking about last week. This week we are going even deeper into the deep. We are meditating John 1 verses 6 to 8 and 19 to 28. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. This is the testimony given by John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny it, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" He answered, "No." Then they said to him, "Who are you? Let us have an answer for those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" He said, "I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, 'Make straight the way of the Lord,' as the prophet Isaiah said." Now they had been sent from the Pharisees. They asked him, "Why then are you baptizing if you are neither the Messiah, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" John answered them, "I baptize with water. Among you stands one whom you do not know, the one who is coming after me. I am not worthy to untie the thong of his sandal." This took place in Bethany, across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. There is a form of theological thinking called apophatic theology that tries to explain who God is by saying who he is not. John the Baptist tries a similar approach. He says he's not a Messiah, He's not a prophet, he's not an important figure. He points to a much deeper identity. He says he is a voice. He recognized his identity as what God wanted to say through him. He recognized the truth that needed to be told, and he followed that voice. John is said to be a person sent by God. Sounds like a big deal and a thing from the past, all the more so that John the Baptist looked quite eccentric. But actually it's about all of us. We are all people sent by God. And I know that when I say this, some of you may have some strange associations. You may picture a weird person, a guru surrounded by crowds of manipulated people that follow him blindly wherever he or she goes. But when we come to think of it, being sent by God is way more down to earth and ordinary, though extraordinary at the same time, than we really think. In fact, we have all been sent by God to testify to the light because we all have this strange light inside. We all have this intuitive knowledge of how things really are, of what things really are, before we even learn how to name them. Intuition, it is said, is another name for contemplation. You've probably noticed you've met uneducated people or children who knew far more than you would expect. On the other hand, there are very many people who have formal education, but they are so concerned with what they should be thinking, with how they should be perceiving reality, of what their opinions should be in order for them to be accepted, that they miss a deeper insight, that they lack this deeper knowledge that could give them a deeper understanding of reality. They might feel that something is missing, they might feel the urge to look for something more, something deeper, but on the other hand, they might be so afraid of mystery, so afraid of the tension a mystery evokes, that they may want to get rid of it with the first answer that they find. Gerald May, an American psychiatrist and theologian, said that mystery can be known without being solved. Your life is not a problem to be solved. And not every problem is a problem you can work through and get rid of. Life doesn't come down to finding a way to be productive, finding your mission statement, finding your one passion, as if anybody had one passion in life only. Life doesn't come down to finding a label for yourself so that other people can know if you are on their team or not. Life invites us to stop repeating cliches after other people. It invites us to go into the wilderness, listen to the voice that is crying out there, enter into a dialogue with that voice, and let go of old ways of thinking that no longer fit the reality. Let go of old identities that no longer fit the reality. Become open to mystery and, instead of trying to solve it, just contemplate it. The mystery, the wilderness, is a place that will change you, but of course it comes with some risks. So if you're not afraid to lose that old sense of peace that comes from being overly attached to the labels you've already earned, join us this Sunday, 10 p.m. Central European Time, into the wilderness in search of the missing piece.